Welcome to Conspiracy Crypto Pirates, episode 22. Why don't pirates take showers? Before walking the plank.
Have dreadlocks?
No.
Oh, before walking the plank.
Yeah. Because they're just going to wash up on shore later. Anyway, we made it to 22.
We did.
So we are now going to start singing the Taylor Swift song.
No Taylor Swift.
Because I'm 22. It'll be all
just
right.
got banned.
Right? Yeah, probably a copyright strike.
Right?
Taylor, it's okay.
We'll give you half of our earnings.
Half our earnings if you give us half of yours. You know, a quarter.
Anything would work.
A donation.
Even just a postage stamp.
Yeah, signed that we can sell again to make a profit.
Right.
So I was on my way to your the studio.
Okay.
And I get here and I'm about at your studio and I come in and I see
Studio is code for a ship.
yeah, the ship. I was on my way in a flotation device coming to the ship. And as I come, there's like roadkill on the road.
Okay.
And a guy jumps out of his car.
What?
Shirtless.
Did he run it over?
I don't know, because I was like pulling up. He like ran into my lane.
What?
As I'm approaching, because his car stopped. And he runs into my lane, picks up a dead squirrel by the tail,
What?
and goes running back to his car. I'm like, what are you going to do with that squirrel?
That's why you gotta stay on the seas.
Right?
Just
No
don't-
roadkill. At least the roadkill in the sea is edible.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Definitely.
Unless it's something like diesel.
Well, I guess.
Well, he washed up, so.
Have you heard of the Nautilus? Because we're talking about the sea.
Nautilus, no.
So before the North Pole got like explored, the only exploration of like the true North Pole that people saw before like 1930 was by an airship. They basically flew there in a blimp, but the blimp
It's just getting colder.
yeah, doesn't it drop with cooler temperatures?
Just stoking the fire.
Right. No, that's a hot air balloon.
What does a blimp run off of?
Is it-
Helium?
Maybe now, but wasn't it hydrogen before? Hindenburg?
I don't know.
Going back to the story. So they flew over basically the North Pole, but they've never actually at that time set foot on the North Pole.
Okay.
So then, like the North Pole is basically the Arctic Ocean with ice on top. There's actually no like land.
Yeah. I did know that.
Okay.
I'm not completely.
Well,
I finished 5th grade, okay?
our commenters think we're that dumb. But so anyway, long story
Some
short,
of us think we're brilliant, though.
you are brilliant.
I know I am. It takes a lot of people to not think that for me to reinforce my...
Like your mommy. You got it.
No, I actually didn't. Oh, well.
Squirrel.
No, that was on the road.
But so anyway, so no, they hadn't stepped foot on the North Pole yet,
Okay.
and they really wanted to. And basically, there's this like independent explorer guy, and this is like right after World War I. He decides that he's gonna do this trip to the North Pole, but he needs to get funding. So he's trying to figure out, how am I going to get funding for this trip? And he actually is like, okay, maybe if I make it a big like media publicity stunt thing, then that'll be a surefire way to get revenue.
Yeah.
So he goes to Hearst, the guy that owns the newspapers.
Not the people that
Drive the cars. No, different Hearst. He goes to, I can't remember Hearst's first name, but he was mega wealthy guy.
Okay.
He, I think, got originally his money from silver mining
Like
in
Hershey
California.
chocolate?
No, that's Hershey.
Oh.
Silver mining in California. And then he ended up getting into media and basically by, I think, the big newspaper on the West Coast at the time was based in San Francisco. blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Became a media empire. And this guy that wanted to do the expedition went to him and was like, I'll give you exclusive, like, interviews and rights to basically the story to go to the North Pole.
Oh.
So the Hearst guy thought it was a great idea. He helps fund him. And then he also sets up this, like, $150,000, like, prize for if he was going to send an airship to the North Pole at the same time that the submarine was going to get there.
The submarine?
So I haven't got there yet.
Okay.
I should have prefaced that. So anyway,
Don't worry, you can edit it to your timeline.
So what was cool is basically, so this guy was going to take a submarine to get to the North Pole because they've tried basically the airship, but for some reason the airship can't land there at the time. They tried dog sleds and you name it. Nobody could actually get all the way there. So his brilliant idea was to use a submarine to get there.
Okay.
And so the Hearst guy, going back to the Hearst guy, thought it would be great for media publicity to basically have camera crew and all that in the airship as the submarine like emerges from the ice and goes to the North Pole.
If he can crack it.
Well, so that's part of the story too. So along the way to the North Pole, I guess there's holes in the ice. And that's what this guy's plan was, basically pop up in the holes to recharge the batteries because they were using diesel generators and all that, and to get oxygen in the thing. And so, long story short, which this has already been a long story, he goes and he gets the funding from Hearst. And he goes and finds a World War I submarine that can fit a crew of 20. And he actually subleases that submarine from this other guy that actually owns it.
Oh, okay.
The submarine is called the Nautilus. And so he's trying to get basically revamped up submarine to make it ice-proof, if you will. And so he's like getting putting all these doodads on it, like these things that can like drill to like if they're 20 feet like under, then they could drill 20 feet through the ice and so forth. And then also put like these.
So that little thing that goes up that you're like, you see the captain and you're like, fire!
Yeah, the
put
periscope.
That into a drill. The periscope into a drill.
Something like that.
Nice.
And they also put like skids on it, so like the ice, if it scrapes the ice, it wouldn't destroy it. Hopefully, this was all theoretical. Hopefully,
and like the Titanic.
Exactly. And he's put all this stuff into it, and it's making the project take longer and longer. And for some reason, the airship was like on a steady course. It was going to get there at this date.
Oh wow.
And so for him to be able to win this prize money for $150,000, he had to get there by this date.
Yeah.
And so he goes, the drills don't even work. And there's like these flap things to help, I don't know, do something with the ice to like keep the thing from not like Titanicing.
Right.
And like those don't work. And he's like, we just gotta go. So then they, load the thing up with food and everything. They don't really think about this beforehand, which is funny. By the time they load it up with food and the 20 guys get in, it's literally standing room only. They can't sit anywhere.
Oh my God.
There are places that a few crew members can lay down and sleep, but that's like taking turns. There's one toilet on this on this submarine, and it's smack dab right in between both diesel generators.
I guess that's one way to get privacy.
Yeah. So then they're cruising along, and one of the engines like goes out in the thing, and the guy is sending like updates like through radio to Hearst like every day basically.
Right.
And then after a while, they start getting no updates. And then some battleship somewhere, I think it was like in the Royal Navy, because for some reason they had to head from like America over to like England area, and then head up. I don't know, just the course was right. So like the Royal Navy picked them up basically because they were like all their engines were out, their batteries were dead. They tow them to like England, then they have to dock there to like get parts from America to fix their submarine, and then that's putting them behind schedule. Long story short, at this point,
why didn't they just have the Royal Navy just take them all the way up and then finish the last like 30 miles or whatever?
Right. So at this point, basically the media has turned on them. Basically, like they're a bunch of kooks and they're never gonna make it. And then so they're gonna miss their $150,000 prize winning because the airship's gonna be there and gone.
Right.
Why they couldn't postpone it, I don't know why they couldn't do that. But anyway, so basically this guy's reputation's on the line. He's like, I've got nothing to lose at this point. Oh, and one feature that he wanted the sensor on the submarine that could detect how much ice was above him.
Okay.
To help, like,
be a nice feature,
right? To be helped to basically pop up here and there on their way. But the guy that actually owns the submarine had to approve all the things, and that was one of the things that he would not approve to put on the submarine.
Oh, wow.
So look, he goes, they make it. Yay! Party.
With the picture and everything, or?
So the picture and all, that was long gone.
Oh, okay.
But they actually made it to the North Pole. Nobody expected them it to happen. But moral of the story, the excitement is in the story to get there versus the actual accomplishment of getting to the North Pole.
Did they take one of the batteries and put it near the magnet and have a little motor? It's like, oh, look, we're there.
Yeah, probably to make their compass spin. They really never made it. But I thought
that's the conspiracy, you folks.
But I thought it was hilarious. The one feature that he really wanted was I saw the exclamation. I was like, is it not recording?
Yeah, I was like, oops. Your 1 minute star turned 12.
I know, right? But anyway, I thought it was funny. The one feature, the sensor to be able to poke through the ice. He's like, no.
Right. I wonder how much that was.
The sensor?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Back then.
I don't know.
I wonder if it was like what kind of like technology, sonar or LiDAR. Or
yeah. Who knows?
What they were
There's no way of finding out either.
None.
But yeah. I know you have a story for me.
I do.
You do.
Oh, shoot.
You were doing a bunch of research.
Oh, so do you remember those Chinese aircraft carriers that you were talking about?
Yes, the ones that were gambling ships.
Yes. So pretty much China bought these casinos.
Yes.
Ships that were casinos from Russia.
Yeah.
Russia had an aircraft carrier that they named casino ships so they could sell to China. So it was actually a little more
of an
aircraft carrier than you originally thought. So I thought that was kind of cool. They probably did a little modifications and that kind of stuff.
So you're saying it was like a tax loophole type of situation?
Well, more of a loophole to be able to sell it.
Right.
Without America being like, shame, shame, shame. And freezing their money.
Right. Which,
they have.
I'm sure they knew. That's funny. Yeah. That's hilarious.
But probably for the public, the American public and the EU and all that, they're probably like, oh, they bought a casino.
Right.
And then, oh, they made a casino into a ship? Or an aircraft carrier?
What defines a casino? It's like one slot machine on the deck. You got a ratchet strapped down.
You know the way the Russians do casinos. You win or you lose.
Isn't that
pull this lever and if you fall, you lose.
Isn't that just Russian roulette?
Well, that's a form of it.
Okay.
But
that's hilarious.
Right? And then
they
had the audacity to be like, you know what? This aircraft carrier that the Russians didn't even want, that's our aircraft carrier. We're going to replicate it and make another one like it.
Oh, so ripping off their...
So it's like, what are the Chinese doing? They have an aircraft carrier from like the 50s,
Yeah.
60s,
and then they replicated
70s.
a 50s style.
Right? Maybe not way back then.
Yeah.
But maybe 70s style aircraft carrier.
Wow. So that's interesting. I ran across I was doing research earlier this week because, our show requires heavy, heavy research.
Most definitely.
And they were talking about how there's, like, all of the Apollo 11 tapes, if you will, black box type conversations have been supposedly released, and you can, like, listen to it.
Okay.
And sounds like there's some weird stuff on it. Like, even when they, like, went on the backside of the moon.
Ooh.
So, like, all that was recorded, so it couldn't been broadcast back to...
Well, yeah, we didn't have the technology to...
bounce around the moon.
Laser through the moon. Oh,
right.
Bouncing around the moon probably sounds a little more smart.
So it was all recorded still, and it sounded like it was an interesting conversation. But, like... structures and like it sounded like supposedly they were talking about structures and stuff on the moon. I know I haven't actually I've done the research.
That's been like
theorized.
theories.
Yeah. So like I want to find the recordings and listen to them. That would be an interesting podcast,
right?
To talk about that in more details.
Were the videos released? You think if they're doing that, they would video it too?
On the dark side, there's probably no light.
How do we know there's structures if there's no lights?
That's a good question. Excellent.
Maybe the moon isn't a reflection of the sun, but it's the glow of the light from the other side. Or at the inside of the moon.
Would the backside of the moon be the dark side? Because isn't the sun on that side of it?
Well, I don't know.
No, it's probably like this, where the sun, because the reflection of the moon is the sun light reflecting off. I was thinking it was reflecting. Yeah. So there is a dark side. Guys, there is a dark side of the moon. Dodge that one.
Is there a dark side of the earth?
Some would say so.
But if it's flat... Okay, so going back to aircraft carriers.
Yes.
So there's this guy on an aircraft carrier that orders the head of an M1 Abrams tank.
He ordered that, like the turret?
Yeah.
Okay.
He orders it, and the captain, when it's being put on, comes to him and is like, "What did you do? Why is there an M1 tank head on my ship?"
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on a second. He runs back to his logs. He comes back and is like, I didn't order it. Supposedly what he ordered and what was ordered was 2 numbers difference. Like instead of a 7, it was like a 5 or a 9 or something like that.
And they're like, we don't take it back. Read the fine print.
And so and then he's like, am I going to get in trouble? He's like, no, but someone is. Because like he's like, you're through the ordering process.
Yeah.
Nobody questioned.
Oh man.
Once the numbers got mixed up,
Yeah.
no one questioned. Why are we putting a head of a tank?
Yeah. On an aircraft carrier.
An aircraft carrier. They have other specifically modified heads to different things that have different weapons. That's not a tank head.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, probably in a crate. Paperwork goes through, tons of checkpoints. It's like, item 3, 4, 5, 6. Item,
right?
3, 4, 5, 6.
But there should have been someone along the line, multiple ways along the line, that was like, ship it off.
So the prefix to every ordering number, probably for the Navy, starts with an N.
He's had an A, Army.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's funny.
But you think a phone call be like, do you really want a head of a tank?
Right?
No. No, we don't. Okay, why did you order one? Oh, actually, we ordered this, And the paper or electronic trail, you should be able to go back and be like, oh, here was the mistake.
Well, how recent was this?
I don't know. At least 20 years when the Abrams been out. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't know how electronic.
I mean, the paper trails, they're able to track it down, so I'm assuming.
Right. So, did you know that in Japan, if you are a professional golfer in Japan,
okay,
that you have to have hole-in-one insurance?
No.
So, well, you don't have to have it, but
so do you wear like an extra pair of pants?
No. It's highly recommended that you actually do have hole-in-one insurance. And the reason is, supposedly in Japan, if you get a hole-in-one, you are required to throw this massive party.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can go and golf in Japan. Maybe not some others.
So if you get a hole-in-one, it's basically disrespectful if you don't throw a massive party, like thousands of dollars party.
Yeah.
So that's why there's an insurance for if you get a hole-in-one, then you get cash out on your insurance and throw a massive party.
I was actually talking to somebody just last night.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like golf and all that. Mm-hmm. And they have, the competitions where you win a prize, like a vehicle if you get a hole-in-one or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly that's just an insurance claim. So to like do that raffle or whatever, to have people try and get a hole-in-one, you get an insurance claim.
Okay.
Or insurance policy on it, which then the insurance policy is like, it's probably like a 1 in 1,000 or whatever chance. So like $2,000 for it or whatever.
Wow.
And so if they actually do win it, then they get a vehicle. And so it doesn't cost you any money to actually dish out.
Interesting. Huh.
So
that's cool.
I thought that was like when you brought that up, I'm like, I wasn't talking with him about that. No, like, oh yeah, I know who I was talking about.
Well, because last week we were talking about how the Michael Jordan thing in the
and the insurance company wouldn't pay out the $1 million.
Yeah, I think it was the insurance company that was doing the advertisement for it. But yeah, that's so weird. But on another note, I found this really interesting. Have you heard about Nickelodeon lately? It's kind of been in the news.
No.
Basically, in a bad way, but in the news. It's filled with, they have child actors that do, Nickelodeon does a lot of kid shows.
Oh, okay.
Like Disney Channel, but like another brand.
Oh, okay.
Nickelodeon.
Nope.
And anyway, so basically,
I would shout that.
Without saying words, you can guess where this is going as far as like the bad publicity is going on with Nickelodeon.
Okay.
And what's interesting is Nickelodeon's logo. Does this look? So I'll have to put it on for everybody else to see. This is their logo, and that's Epstein Island.
Okay.
So for audio listeners, it's basically the exact same outline of the island with the little splash dot. It looks
on
like
high tide.
Yeah, it looks like paint, like a paint logo, like dripping paint.
Yeah, it's not exactly, but it looks roughly.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah,
that's weird.
The thing is, do you believe in coincidences anymore? Like, the more and more things pop up, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of coincidences.
Yeah.
But there's also things that you're just like, kind of like, what was it, Big Daddy, or what was that rapper's name?
GoDaddy.
That was the new Epstein now.
Oh,
you remember, what's her name? She had a show. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to say.
Yeah.
Well, she liked other women.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And what was her name?
She had a show, like a news show, or like a
just
TV
like a
show?
little talking show.
Talk show. Oh.
Yeah. It's like her last name's kind of like Deprived or whatever.
Now you're really messing me up.
I think it starts with a D.
But
everyone joked about her name being that. Like,
oh, really?
What's
her name? Short hair? Or
yes. What? Stop narrowing it down.
I can't think of her name. What is her name? I can picture her face.
Ellen
DeGenerate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the degenerate is what everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
But supposedly she went down the whole next step of that level.
Uh-huh.
And she was... Do you remember the rapper's name?
Ice Cube?
No. The one that is the new Epstein?
No.
Oh, man. Shoot.
The one that's been in the news lately? Oh,
This is what happens when we go off script.
I know. What is... it's all over. This is awesome radio. Awesome.
D. Diddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. D. Diddy. He, supposedly, got caught in the scandal. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, Ellen, the degenerate,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would be one of her clients. And you know how many kids have been on that show? Like different things that go on. Like, you're just like, now you're thinking about like, ugh.
Interesting. You know who else was on that show?
Who?
The founders of XRP.
Really?
Yeah, they actually donated. This was like years ago. They donated $1 million to her in XRP to help some animal refuge in Africa or something, and they were basically demonstrating like how fast the money can transfer. But this was years ago, and they did it, and the money's there. See, interesting. Yeah, full circle.
Supposedly, the way that she would get her degenerates is that she would order furniture. And overpay for the furniture. So it's an expensive item.
Sounds like the art scandal.
Right?
Yeah. Modern art. That would be an interesting story to talk about, is go deep into modern art.
Do you know why modern art became a thing?
To move money around?
No. So, failed artists.
Sure.
Because art really came after, like in the 1950s, late 1940s.
Like the modern art stuff?
Yeah. And we really learned our lesson. That we really don't want to upset any bad artist, especially if they're Australian or German descent. Hitler was a failed artist.
It's like, where is this going?
Oh, man. So anyone can be an artist now. Just modern art.
Yeah.
And now we haven't had any world wars in how long?
Well, right. Well, that's another interesting with art is it's so subjective, and you can, for like, this is not financial advice, and I'm not a licensed CPA, but like, you can do a piece of art.
Maybe we should do that. See if one of our people would
do some art for us.
Buy some art.
Yeah. And then you can like appraise it, but like the appraising process isn't very rigorous. It's not like it has to be appraised. Well, like for example, you could be like, "Oh, I painted this is $1 million piece of art." I'm going to take this and I'm donating this $1 million piece of art to this 501c3 organization.
Right.
And then on your taxes, you can write off $1 million because you just donated $1 million piece of art to this organization. And yeah.
Touching.
It's very touching.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, or you could sell it. And I know somebody has to do with hunter.
Oh.
That's really good at art.
Right.
Right. That's what he likes to do.
He's really good at it.
Right? He is. And very knowledgeable about foreign sea oil stuff as well.
Yes.
Even though it's really bad for the environment, supposedly. Supposedly we're running out of fossil fuels. But oil, we have lots.
Don't know if we want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, probably too big of money.
But yeah, the chemtrails or whatever, supposedly you can. I like this concerned look on your face. Supposedly you can go.
You mean I can't go down the Black Sea, Black Gold Trail, but you can go down the White Skies Trail?
You can actually apply for government contracts to do it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they were paying. What did somebody say? They were paying like $3,000 a job.
Seems relatively cheap.
Yeah, but if it's like go up in your airplane and there's $3,000.
Yeah, but if you're 30,000 feet up, that's an expensive flight up and back down. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how many planes can hold the capacity and also do that? It might be an extra add-on, like people flying.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if it was more of like a subsidy type thing. And who knows, there might be other contracts worth different amounts. I'm sure there's like a mileage range and everything.
Tonnage dumped.
Right. But yeah, it's just kind of like airlines when they deliver mail.
Right, when they've lost your package. Oops.
Right. You're like, oh, we pulled the wrong cord. It's on his luggage. Well, it is raining. But just like airlines, they will fly like packages, like with FedEx or mail.
Yeah.
Like the thing will be full of people. That's the main thing, but it's also subsidizing that flight with.
I've been on flights where they're like, we don't have enough weight underneath to take that much more on. And you're just like, what? You mean the people that you charge $100 for your luggage to go underneath, you're saying, we don't have room for it anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, as you walk in, the flight's completely empty.
Oh.
You're like, did I miss something?
Yeah.
We're carrying a lot of Amazon packages. It's the holiday season. Why is the flight empty?
Oh, man. That's crazy.
But, yeah.
Gosh. Do you have any more?
Oh, remember that bishop that was attacked?
Yes. With the knife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, supposedly, he held up the cross that was around his neck when he was being attacked.
Okay.
So, the kid pulls out this retracting knife.
Yeah.
It pops. He is having a hard time having it pop out. He actually loses a couple digits. Who would try and get the knife open. He kind of like discards and like beats him up or whatever.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, the priest got injured, but not as bad as the kid trying to do the attack.
Wow.
It's like, whoa, like maybe there is something to this.
Well, and did you know that they were trying, well, we'll probably get banned for talking about it. No. They're trying to actually like keep that story under wraps because they don't want to see, because basically this guy was a migrant and into that country and all that, and they don't want that going out, showing that was
there's
a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things being stomped down
suppressed Suppressed. Don't stop it.
Oh, did you hear Epic Times?
Epic Times. Is that like
Not
Epic
at Epic Times, no. Epic Games, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Epic.
Did you know that you have Epic Times when you play Epic Games?
But they actually sued Apple.
Yes, that was a huge lawsuit.
Yeah.
For a long time.
But supposedly what went down is that they sued Apple and they won. And then so, because it was like a big the Apple tax or whatever.
Yeah, the 30%.
Yeah. And so they're like, that's absurd. You know? And so they're like, whatever, we're suing you. They won. And then Apple's like, well, you're going against our contracts or whatever. So they completely dropped them. And so then they had to sue again to get back on. But you know how long those lawsuits take? Probably a couple years. Yeah.
The power.
Right? But the thing is, once you let one, like if one person wants it,
well, that's
then they
the
sue,
big part.
And then now everybody gets that.
That's the big thing. Like right now in Europe, they actually have made Apple open up the App Store or allow other app stores, not just their app store.
Oh, just on the phone?
On the phone. And then that has basically, the first thing that's popped up is emulators. So like, you know what an emulator is?
Like a flight emulator, simulator?
That's simulator. So emulator is like, say I had a Game Boy at one time, and then I want to play Game Boy games on my phone. Then you have to have this emulator software that basically tricks this game in thinking that this is a Game Boy. And then the controls, basically. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a big thing for the store to get these new stores. And then so Apple quickly pivots and is like, emulators can be in our store. That's fine. So then now emulators are getting into the Apple store, the App Store. And this was only a European thing. But then they opened it up so even like in the US that you can have emulators and stuff on the phone. So it's kind of funny how I don't like that the government is posing. But at the same time, it's kind of cool because it's like
within capitalism, you have a couple different things, and monopolies are something that the government's supposed to protect against. Right. So that's an interesting thing. Arguing the monopoly thing is also an interesting thing. Yeah. And then arguing that some aren't a monopoly or arguing that it's a legal monopoly. Right. Like if you say you invent a flying car that is the safest in the world, and then for you to say that you can't profit from it. Right. And no one else can figure out how to do it, so they just copy what you do. That's kind of cheating on, like, you need to have the intellectual property that you have. Right. Like to say to Apple, you need to split up. Right. Because you make too good of products, you need to dumb down your products is kind of like, okay. But there's other competitors out there. Right. But, like, some of the tactics they used to go against, what is that? The Microsoft phone. Yeah. And what was that? Like the BlackBerry or something? They use different tactics against that. You could then argue saying that they're behaving like monopoly with bad will involved with that. Right. And so. But even with like monopolies too, that like go around and buy the competition, it's hard because it's like, well, they worked hard to get to the point that they are big. And then, like, okay, they have all this extra money. If they want to go buy the competition, and the competition's like, yeah, I want to sell it to you. Like, it's worth the money for us. Right. And they do that. I feel like, why punish them? Both parties want it to happen. It's not like they're being held at gunpoint to do it. So it's like, why punish it? And then, I mean, I understand in the long scheme, like, oh, okay, now if they own everything, then they can charge whatever price they want, which is sort of their goal because then they want to be able to control more of it. Right. So, like, I get it in a
Yeah, it's definitely a conflict.
When you're that big, also, it's like Amazon. Why did Amazon move into all these different venues? Because they don't want to become a monopoly. Like if you're the only person in a bookstore, like if you're, say, Amazon is selling online, has 51% of the online sales, so like, wait a minute, we want some other companies to come in.
Right.
So we're not viewed as a monopoly. So we're going to raise our prices, become more normal prices. I think that's really the downside of Amazon, is that they got too big.
Interesting.
That they didn't want to become a monopoly, so then they moved their efforts to
diversify their portfolio.
Yeah, pretty much.
But when they still say, no, I guess if they did diversify within different parts, and there's not
Within
the
different
51%,
sectors, yeah.
even though they're basically
Like
now.
they're in movies, and they bought a bunch of didn't they buy like AMD or theaters?
Oh, AMC.
AMC, yeah.
They were looking at them. I don't know if it ever actually went through.
Yeah, I think they bought like the ratings for movies.
Ours gets a 5-star every time. Right? Yeah, that's funny.
It's like, where do you get your news? Oh, IMDb. Amazon owns that. Where was the movie made? Oh, Amazon made that as well?
And where's that video hosted? Oh, Amazon owns the hosting as well.
Right? Even Netflix did go through Amazon servers.
Yeah, well, everybody basically does.
Right?
I
remember back when like you heard people saying, yeah, Amazon's buying all the internet real estate. I'm like, internet real estate? Huh?
Yeah.
Like it didn't really click in, and now you're just like, oh.
Right.
It clicked in.
Well, a huge part of the like Pentagon's server system is Amazon.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
So I think if my information's right.
Yeah.
And if I'm off of my memory.
Yeah.
But supposedly Jeff Bezos has like a $600 million contract with Amazon for probably their servers.
Yeah.
But he also sits on the board, like some sort of board on the Pentagon. I'm like,
I did hear about
Huh. Now I'm scared.
That's you wonder, like, how is that not a conflict of interest? Like, I sit on the board. Oh, there's a $600 billion project coming up. We need servers.
Right.
I know a company that would love to have this contract.
Actually, we're ramping up right now. Who knew the government contract was coming up? They just put it on the market 2 days ago. We've been working 3 years to develop this. I mean, it makes sense to a degree.
Yeah, it does.
But also there needs to be checks and balances on that, which I'm sure they have to some degree. But, I mean, if you look into other places, you're just like, and how did the $2 trillion went missing?
Right.
That you couldn't account for.
Well, it's just like
But for some reason, I cheated you of 10 cents, and you found it.
Right to jail.
Right to jail.
Oh,
parking ticket. Right to jail.
Yeah, there's so much corruption everywhere. It's just like all these senators and stuff that make a fairly modest salary, and yet their net worth is like Nancy Pelosi makes, I think, $200,000 or something.
Like
$250 max.
She's a nice,
great salary,
right?
But she's worth.
I can live with that.
She's worth like $120 million.
Right. Well, it's
$250 million, because it was $250 million.
Oh wow.
And they were doing the calculations, like with her current salary, how long it would take her, and it was like 3,000 years. Which, have you looked at her? It looks like she's been working 3,000 years. Oh man.
Yeah, I was listening to Patrick Bet David,
Yeah.
and he was making some arguments, or he was interviewing Tulsi Gabbard,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
he asked her, "So, if you were to become the VP for
Yeah.
Trump," and I'm like, "What? What?
That'd be weird.
Where that? I mean, that would be an interesting, like to me, the thought process that would go behind that. I'd love to know how people were thinking."
Yeah.
That Tulsi Gabbard would be, because Tulsi Gabbard is completely
Like,
her own thinker.
yeah.
Like she's not going to say, I want this, or oh, for donation money I'll accept this or whatever. Like to give her credit, like, yeah, I would disagree with her on probably a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
I think the move there would be for him to get a lot of the independent votes. I think that would suck that in. And then also a lot of just the traditional Democrat side, I think is more aligned with her
but
viewpoint.
Kennedy would be a better one? That'd be an interesting one.
Well, did you hear about that?
No.
He claims that they came to him and asked him to be VP.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which, whether you can believe that statement or not.
That's an interesting.
Yeah.
That the Republican Party came to him.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Like, I mean, there's so much I disagree with him, but it would have been entertaining.
Right? I don't know why you wouldn't do that.
If you were Kennedy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that sets you up for a good run.
It does, and it sets you up with the more conservative voters.
They might have came up to him and be like, would you entertain the thought? Like, maybe not like 100%. It's like...
Offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like, drop out now and we'll give you this without like giving it to him. So he's like, no, I want it in writing first, or who knows what it could have been.
Right. Because it makes you wonder, because like, there's no way he's going to win the Kennedy either way. So why wouldn't you entertain an idea like that?
There's also a ploy of he's more harmful to the Republicans, and then there's other people like, no, he's more harmful to the Democrats.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to kind of see like who would be, because okay, so if you step back and say you're Kennedy, and the Democratic Party says, oh yeah, you can run, but actually you can't physically go out and campaign in these states.
Yeah.
You're just like, fine. I'm going, like, if you're going to handcuff me and make it impossible for me to actually get my news out there, then sure, why not?
Right.
But if you come in and you're like, okay, so you run out of spite for them.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay. But then you're like, okay, maybe there's something I could do on the other party that I'm like, hey, I'll run with you guys or whatever. But if he says, I'm running for president or whatever, now he's getting more of a momentum and a crowd following. And then he can say, oh, instead of being the new housing development
liaison.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to be VP, you know? So that might have been another play of saying, hey, I'm this big and I'm actually harmful to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I have followers and I can move them one way or another.
Right.
But then if you don't do that, then you become a Ross Perot, who was what was his name? George Bush Sr.
Okay.
That's why he lost to Bill Clinton, is because Ross Perot ran as a third party independent and pretty much split the vote between Ross Perot and George Bush Sr.
Right.
So that's an interesting, and the funny thing is, someone interviewed him, like some sort of news organization or whatever, and they did a documentary on him. Okay. And they're interviewing him, kind of, and talking, and that was the only thing that he didn't want to talk about. He was still bitter about that. Just imagine you're going to win by, like, say, 60-40 or something like that. Yeah. And then someone comes along and splits your vote in half, where you lose. You're just like,
oh, man. That's terrible.
But did you know George Bush Sr.
Yeah.
was, I think, the head of the CIA for a little bit, and also some sort of representative on the NRA. I think he was on the board of the NRA.
At the same time?
Knowing the CIA, I wouldn't
put it
doubt
past
it.
them. Yeah. That is interesting. But talking about Tulsi Gabbard, I think on that same show you were talking about on PBD.
Okay, yeah.
He asked her, like, oh, would you be willing to basically be VP for on the Republican side? And she would basically said, yeah, she would if presented with the opportunity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I actually thought about that a while ago. Being like, she would be a very interesting one. And I know a lot of people are against it. Like, oh no, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. You're just like, strategically, it might be the best move. And then Kennedy came along.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Kennedy might be a good one because, like, it seemed like the Democratic Party burnt bridges with him. And so, and Trump could say, hey, you want to come?
Yeah.
Because I guess he did do some sort of, some stuff for environmental stuff.
Yeah.
With Trump.
Okay.
And with the Donald.
Yeah.
And supposedly, no, I think he did some stuff with the what is that? The stuff that you put inside your body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's a big.
Yeah. And supposedly he goes and asks, like, what are the efficacies and all this?
Yeah.
And be like, can you present this? And the guy that recommended double masking was like, oh yeah, we got all that. We'll send it over to you. Crickets, nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to have that on all of these?
Right.
And you're
syringing
a bunch of, like, you're making it mandated to go to school.
Yeah.
And then you mandate that kids go to school.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of money in this stuff.
Oh, a lot of money in this stuff. Well, and just on a strategic side, and basically they're looking at numbers. How can we get the most votes to basically, gain the presidency? Yeah. And I feel like even like a Tulsi Gabbard might even put you ahead in areas that over Kennedy of where you struggle. Because think about it. Tulsi Gabbard, like you were saying, is a strong, independent woman as far as her presence or whatever.
An independent thinker and all that, yeah.
Where Trump probably struggles as far as individuals is strong, independent women probably in that demographic. Yeah. So then it's like you bring her on, and if you can sway a large percentage of those, that was...
But the thing is, it sounds like she's hook, line, and sinker on board the ship already. So you don't need to bring her on board the ship.
You don't need her on board necessarily.
Well, she's already on board, so you don't need to do anything to convince her to get on board. Like offer her the olive branch of a VP or something like that. So that would she's not coming in with a power move saying, I have all these votes. She's like, I'm already on board, where Kennedy does have that power move to say, if you want my people,
this is what you're going to have to pay for it. Or
if that's what he's truly wanting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he truly wants, though, which is also an interesting move. You're just like, okay, interesting.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting.
Because it sounds like he's very convicted in what he does, which is good to a degree.
Yeah.
Also, bad to a degree.
Yeah, but those people are also the most readable, too. Like, show me somebody that is passionate about something, then you know where their head's at. And you can...
To a degree.
Yeah.
I mean...
I guess Hitler was passionate, too.
Right.
But you knew he was bad.
So, I was listening to this guy and he was talking about like rational evil. Like is what Hitler did rational? And for the last 100 years or whatever, 80 years, people have been like, no, that's completely unrational. Then if it was completely unrational, how did he get the majority of the German people to vote him in?
Board. Yeah.
And then how did he progress it to a point to where it went?
Yeah.
You know? So I thought that was a very, very interesting thought. And he was like, it is very important for us to think of him as rational evil because that way it is preventable.
Right.
Where the other way is unpreventable.
Right.
Because you don't know what makes him jive and why he does different things.
Right.
I was like,
yeah,
man.
It just makes you...
Because you don't want to think of it as rational.
Right. Well, and it, at the point where it ended and that everybody thinks about, it wasn't. But like you said, was there at a point where it didn't seem so bad and that's how he got in?
Well, it's tiny steps. Like you look at...
Yeah.
Like he had medical crisis. He had the scientists for him. He had, like, if you look at the steps today and then you look at the steps back then, you're like, are they following a blueprint?
Yeah, right.
But that's besides the point. But, like, you look at the slow steps that you do.
Right.
And then, like, to me, it is mind-boggling that people's moralities will change. Like, to me, morality, like, there's some morality that changes, you know? Yeah. And then there's definitely morality that is stuck in stone. And if you make arguments, like for me, one of the biggest arguments is it was okay for Hitler to do what Hitler did because he had 51% of the vote. If you base morality off of popular, on the vast majority of people think this.
Right.
Because if you think that, then it's okay for you to own slaves.
Right. But you're not saying for that.
No, I'm not for that.
Yeah,
but you're
I'm
saying
just making that clear.
If there's 51% of the vote that says yes, it is okay.
Yeah, does that still make it okay?
Yeah, then it's moral. But if there's morals that don't change, then yes, what happened with the American slave trade was wrong. And with the slave trade of the Slavs and the slave trades of all these different groups along the time frame. Yeah. Yes, was wrong in different ways.
Right.
And so, like, the Bible talks about slavery, but that's when you kind of, like, went into debt on, you're like, oh, to serve my debt, these were different things, and you lasted 7 years, and then you're like, hey, you know, I like working under this guy a whole lot better. You know, then you could jump ship and say, I'll work for you for life.
Right.
It was much easier working underneath you than on my own.
Isn't that kind of what we all do with the Federal Reserve? We're all slaves to the Federal Reserve.
No, don't get me started on that one. There's a lot.
I know. I know we've hit kind of around the bush about the Federal Reserve a lot on here. I feel like what would be actually interesting, and please comment below too, if we should do a show specifically on a topic and try it like the Federal Reserve and just do a bunch of research on that one thing and just have a bunch of stories about that one entity. Yeah. That would be kind of interesting.
It would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Just let us know if that sounds fun. Let us know below. And yeah.
And also comment your favorite topic that you want.
Favorite topic.
And we probably won't do it. We'll do the least favorite.
And promo code DREADS. Do you have any more stories?
Or nothing.
Should we wrap it?
You know what?
It's been a good episode.
Yeah, that's a good episode.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And tell all your friends about Conspiracy Crypto Pirates. Like, comment, subscribe. Look out for our shorts. A new short comes out every day. It is a lot of work, so please keep watching them.